you made a choice to go on the business side. Why did you go that side and not on the entertainment side?
I feel, Faizan, I was too opinionated for that. मैंने दुनिया की हर कोशिश की थी कि मैं टीवी पे ना आऊँ.
Why do you think business journalism and business content has not worked here?
I feel that at a societal level, we all want money and wealth, but we see wealth as evil. It scared the daylights out of me. Don't get me started on AI. You know, when people want to talk about artificial intelligence, let them first find a solution for natural stupidity.
Hello, welcome everyone to DigiTales. My name is Faizan Sayed, founder and CEO of East River, and today I have someone with a ton of media experience, 15 years to be exact. She is someone who's been a business journalist. She has or currently is an independent PR consultant. She's had her own PR agency. She organizes and conducts all sorts of corporate dialogues, social dialogues. And she's someone that you're pretty familiar with, not just on television, but also in the digital realm. Sidra Iqbal, how are you?
Very well. Thank you so much, Faizan.
Thank you for taking the time out and joining us. And you've been around in media for 15 years is what you've said, but it seems like forever. And you've done practically every aspect of media, right? So you went into, I think, the business channels, you reported on the budget, you conduct a lot of corporate dialogues, you ran your own PR company. How did you end up in this space? I mean, because they were not taught this career path in school or in college. So how did you discover it?
Interestingly, my journey began with school because a lot of people, as they would know, I was a very energetic kid back in school. I was very active, not just in my studies, but all the co-curriculars. So I was very familiar with the theatre, with public speaking, declamations, elocutions, recitals. And lo and behold, when I was 15 and I had just completed my O-levels, came this fantastic opportunity to be a part of an international public speaking championship. It was by the English Speaking Union, and they had a Karachi round. Luckily, I won that. Then we went on to the Pakistan heats. I won that. And the national champions were invited to London, where it was the World Debates. And we had about 48 participants from 26 different countries. So at a very young age, I had that global platform, which was fantastic because for those who are familiar with the English Speaking Union, it's a great forum of thinkers. And back in the day, Mr. Abdul Qadir Jafri used to be the president. The vice president was Bahram Awari. The secretary general was Barrister Shahida Jamil. I mean, the average age of that group was learned thinkers, movers of Pakistan, who were perhaps all 50 plus. And here there was this, doe-eyed 15-year-old who found her place in that forum. So luckily, the International Public Speaking Championship, I won that as well.
Wow.
And I was invited.
At the age of 15?
Yep. And I was invited to the Buckingham Palace to receive my winner's certificate by His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh.
Wow, that's quite the experience.
That changed my life, Faizan, because I was suddenly in this circuit. I was made an honorary member of the English Speaking Union, so got real-time FaceTime with the corporate leaders, with the diplomatic circles, the ambassadors, and they used to have this format of town hall meetings. And because I was this kid who they had suddenly discovered, they would invite me to every meeting, and there would be conversations about the geopolitical realities, the economic matters. I owe everything to that forum because that gave me an understanding of the protocol, of how you address seniors, of how an argument is formed, how you present a case, and you do it without insulting the intelligence of your audience. So I think that really put my life on a different pathway. And by the time I had completed my MBA, I was already very well known in the corporate circles. I was invited to moderate conferences. I had even conducted a communication skills workshops with the British Council and with many HR companies. I was this celebrated debater for the school circuit. So I was invited to every school to be a coach for their debates. So I had my life set. By the time I finished my MBA was when media was opening up. So it became like a natural transition.
This is the mid-2000s?
No, this would be by 2006, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
2006.
So mid-Musharraf era, when all the TV channels suddenly started coming up.
Yes.
The news channels, the business channels had just started launching.
Business channels had come up and the conversation was ripe around the restoration of democracy. Benazir Bhutto had come back to Pakistan. So there was a lot of activity happening. And for somebody who'd had their training in A, business, B, in political and economic realities, back in the day, it used to be the Millennium Development Goals that we would argue and talk about. So it was just natural. And that's why I never had a plan to be in media.
So,
It just,
but what's interesting is that your dad is in media.
yes.
So, and you didn't have a plan to be in media, but it was in the family. And
You know,
he's a pretty known producer.
He's a director producer.
At
He belongs to
PTV.
the entertainment side of
Right.
it.
So
And
that you must have grown up with that.
I grew up with the cameras in the studio around
Which
me.
means that it was a natural progression. So that means it was inbuilt in you somehow. And that trigger event at 15 just, I guess, incited that passion for it, no?
Well, I'll tell you something. I have an interesting tale. So once I came back after winning in England, there was this PTV anniversary marathon happening, and nobody wanted to do the graveyard shift, which was early in the morning, 8 a.m. We were supposed to roll out the program. And because PTV had covered me and they had made that link that, oh, her dad is here, so she's practically our child and, whatever. So I was almost bullied into doing the graveyard shift. I reluctantly did that. Not
And
happy
how old were
about
you?
I was, I think, probably 17, 18 at that time.
Okay.
Did not enjoy it. I had Junaid Jamshed as my co-anchor, grudgingly dragging my feet. And I remember distinctly, Faizan, once I was done with it, I wanted to say my salam and my courtesies to the general manager, who was Adil uncle at that time. I walked in and I see Moin Akhtar there. I see Bushra Ansari there, Moin uncle and Bushra auntie. She looked at me and she knew my reluctance and my resistance to media. And she said, देखा मैंने कहा था कुछ भी हो जाए घुटने पेट की तरफ मुड़ते you will end up in media. Till date I tell her it was your self-fulfilling prophecy that has landed me here.
No, but do you think that has a role to play, that if a parent is in an industry and the child sees that parent sort of commit their life to it and grows up around it, that it somehow does seep in? And maybe, some kids reluctantly take on what their parents do and they're like, oh, I didn't choose this, I'm doing it because I have to. But in your case, you at the age of 15 got that recognition, which made you make the choice, but would you have gone down that path had your dad not been in media?
It certainly made it easier because you see, back when media was opening up, everyone who was in media in any capacity, be it a technical capacity, the cameramen, the audio people, the directors, they one way or the other knew the people who were from PTV, the prodigies, the legends, because they're trained under them. So there was a lot of respect. So you felt that responsibility that there's a certain name that you carry. And then secondly, I remember my dad being so happy once I formally started doing TV. And with PTV, they were trained abroad. So my dad had gone to Europe and he had done his secondment in Malaysia because the state television would send you.
Right.
And dad gave me his old books and lecture notes. He's like, oh, you need to understand, for example, how your set is going to be lit up, how you're supposed to be around light. And I remember him giving me my basics. Okay, if this is the camera angle, this is how you position your body. बहुत flat पीछे से नहीं होना चाहिए. तो जहाँ सोफा रखा उससे पीछे तक at least 5 feet जगह होनी चाहिए.
Right.
And I was a nerd, so I loved. I fell in love with the craft of it. I enjoyed it.
And so that's a lot of training.
On-job.
Which is what makes you different from, let's say, some of the other hosts and anchor persons and presenters that we see. It's because you had that kind of training from a seasoned professional who, by the way, was your dad. And I think your 2 sisters.
I have got 2 younger sisters.
Yeah.
I'm the eldest, and
they didn't follow a similar career path.
Actually, because they felt overshadowed. We all went to the same school. We were all Beaconites, and because I was this A-star student plus very active in co-curricular, unfortunately they bore the burden of always being compared to me. So they knew if they would enter media, it would then again become Sidra's sister.
Yeah.
And both of them are very strong personalities. So they're like, okay, anything but that.
Right. Interesting. And so then you, in the mid-2000s, when the TV channels were proliferating, you could have made a choice. You made a choice to go on the business side. You went on to cover the budget for 7 years. Why did you go that side and not on the entertainment side where you had, sort of the hand of your dad? Because, clearly you knew everyone in the industry. Why not follow the entertainment side?
I feel, Faizan, I was too opinionated for that. I thought as a public speaker, because my training was of that, a public speaker, and then, as a youth activist or somebody who was propagating youth-led leadership, I had very strong ideas. And I thought coming into entertainment would mean putting on an act. Interestingly, I did read theater back in my A levels as well. So acting, directing does come, as a passion to me. But I thought that, I would confuse my audience. If they see me reading a script, I've never read a script, by the way. I was even auditioned to read news, and I'm like, okay, I don't think I can follow script because I'm too much of an extempore, opinionated speaker. And I'm curious by default. I'm open to new ideas, but they have to be my ideas. They have to make sense to me. So that's why I thought acting is not my cup of tea.
And even, let's say, on the entertainment side, going into presenting shows, right? Because there's a lot of content that doesn't have to be acting. I mean, there's a lot of travel, presenting, sort of hosting, comparing type roles that you could take. But you wanted to go into something technical at a business channel, which was a completely new concept at the time, and a concept that honestly has not survived.
Yes.
So why did you pick that? And why do you think it hasn't survived?
I feel I picked it because I wanted to carve my own niche. I had a lot of pressure. I remember, Faizan, I started out with daytime television shows with TV1. And I constantly got feedback about the way I dress, the importance of networking. You need to be
Daytime
seen.
television was what?
Morning show with TV1.
Okay, so you did a morning show on TV1.
I did a morning show on TV1,
Right.
which was again not planned. So how it happened was I completed my MBA and I wanted to do strategy and advertising. So that's where I met Tahir Khan and I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Back in the day, he had his television channel in the pipeline. So he's like, okay, do strategy. Then suddenly I knew I was moved into the marketing of the channel. Okay, we're doing a little bit of shuffling. So we move resources.
Two in one. He got one person to do two, three, four things.
And then Seema discovered me. And Seema is like, you know what? I also want you involved with production. So marketing is one angle, but be involved in the whole concept of the program, audition people, find the right, and I want you to produce it. I'm like, okay, producer made sense to me. But I think 3 months into planning the show, they decided that they want me to host it. Again, reluctantly. I was like pushing, shoving. Faizan wo kehte hain na, literally it was in the stars. मैंने दुनिया की हर कोशिश की थी कि मैं TV पे ना हूँ. I did not want my face to be on television. So I went to Tahir uncle and I'm like, I don't think I want to do this. And he's like, just keep quiet, do it. You'll thank me later. And yes, it came true again. He's like, you're meant for it. You add value. I'm like, I'm not the glamorous sort. I don't want to wear makeup. I don't want to do TV and I don't want to do my hair every day. He's like, just be quiet and do it.
Yeah.
So I realized the value of becoming an influencer. Like, you can have great ideas, but what media and the whole process taught me of how you can actually have impact through it. You have great ideas, but reach to an audience, articulate your thoughts, get them to change their hearts and minds.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to continue doing.
Right. And so you basically started as a morning show anchor.
Yeah.
And then you pivoted over into...
Then Seema offered me another youth dialogue show called The Kiva.
Right.
Kiva comes from a concept of sitting in a pit where everybody is equal. It's an indigenous South American concept.
Right.
And from that, I went to PTV. I used to do a show called The World This Week because I have training in international relations. It was about international news, what's happening in the region and the world. Then there was the signature corporate coffee that came along my way. I remember the then Prime Minister Shaukat Aziz taking keen interest in that because he had formerly had the portfolio for finance minister. Right. He's like, we need to put that foot forward, so do that for us. And then I was the resident business and economy journalist with PTV and with other channels for a long while. The natural transition from that was to be moved into the primetime slot and start doing current affairs. Very reluctant, but pushed into that because they said that's the only longevity. I mean, your good talent, business journalism or business program runs once a week.
Right.
So get into that. And I was like, okay. So that's how current affairs started. Did hardcore current affairs for about 3-4 years. And then tried all genres. I mean, did a lot of brand related subjects, was running my PR company at that time. So we were able to do a lot of international projects. We collaborated with IFA and handled 2 IFA social media content for them. With TDAP, we did the Pakistan lifestyle show, which happened in Delhi. So exciting things kept coming around, and learning and evolving continued.
Why do you think business journalism and business content has not worked here? Because, I mean, there's a lot of business news, especially now. I mean, forget the political news for a second. 250 million people, a thriving agriculture-based economy, a lot of potential here. Why was business content not creating or attracting audiences?
I have a two-part answer to that. Number one, I feel that at a societal level, somewhere deep down we all want money and wealth, but we see wealth as evil. And we have a very concrete idea or ideal around the fact that जितने पैसे वाले हैं वो सब चोर हैं. जिन्होंने पैसे कमाए हैं उन्होंने कुछ हैंकी पैंकी किया है, they've made shortcuts, या उनको नवाजा गया है, or they belong to moneyed families. Nobody makes money in a clean way in Pakistan. This is a deeply embedded thought. Then secondly, the second part answer to that is that we are very surface level. Look at all the politics and the public narrative that our public leaders would like to give you. Okay, we are pro-poor, roti kapra makan, we'll give you the basics, or elevate it to the other things कि हम infrastructure develop करेंगे, हम फलाना MOU sign कर रहे हैं, इतनी investment आ रही है. But at a very surface level conversation. We don't have a deep understanding. We don't set directions. We don't make policies. We're very ad hoc. And that is why even while covering the federal budget and when we used to debate the public policy matters, if the interest rate has been raised, or we want to talk about the capital gain tax, or we want to talk about why agriculture is not taxed in Pakistan, you realize that this is such a crossroad of conflicting and at times complex personal gains and agendas that you can't really have an objective debate around it.
But that's the same case anywhere in the world, right? Like even in the US or even in the UK and in developed Western markets, there are conflicting agendas. Obviously, big business will always want their purpose served, and politicians will want to be in bed with big business because that's how they get their campaigns financed. This is global. Don't you think it's a function of literacy? Like it's just straight up people are not educated enough to understand basic business and how it works. And if that is the case, why can't content creators or let's say media houses create content in such a simplified manner that people do understand? Look, everyone runs their kitchen, right? मतलब आमदनी घर पे आती है, आप अंडे डबल रोटी दूध तो लेते हैं, आपको पता है कि महीने के एंड पे इतना खर्चा मेरा बचेगा जस्ट इन केस मुझे हेल्थ या कुछ इश्यूज होंगे. उसी तरीके से अगर हम लोगों को एजुकेट करें, जो कि नहीं कर रहे थे बिजनेस चैनल्स, बिकॉज दे गॉट इनटू द होल political debate and all of that stuff, which people are like, we have enough of that on news channels. Do you think that was the reason that content was not created for the right target audiences?
I feel you certainly have a point there. I feel, but I have a counter argument to that. I feel sometimes we have oversimplified it. Okay. Like, for example, we take these big words and say, acha, hamara current account deficit kitna hai? For any country our size and a developing country that needs to focus on so many economic arenas, आपका करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट ज़्यादा होगा, लेकिन आप उसको जिस अंदाज में प्ले करते हैं कि जी मुल्क ने इतना कर्जा ले लिया, 4 साल में हमने 75 साल के कर्जे का रिकॉर्ड तोड़ दिया, पेट्रोल की कीमत इतने से इतनी हो गई. यानी आपने कभी किसी मुल्क में देखा है कि फेडरल बजट डिबेट हो रही हो और साइड पे वो एक बैनर, एक बूमरैंग चल रहा है जिसमें आपको बताया ब्लूमबर्ग चल रहा है जिसमें आपको बताया जा रहा है कि टमाटर की कीमत 5 रुपये बढ़ गई है. It doesn't happen anywhere. हम उसको एक मैच की तरह देखते हैं, हम उसको एक T20 की तरह देख रहे होते हैं. We are not interested in the framework of it. And yes, we have A, oversimplified it, B, we are not creative. हमारे यहाँ जितने लोग subject experts हैं जो बैठकर बात करते हैं, उनकी बात कोई सुनना ही नहीं चाहता. Even एक business student उसकी बात नहीं सुनना चाहता. So there's a big dearth of that. And last piece to that would be, फैज़ान, कि हमारे पास credible data नहीं है. हमारे जो नंबर्स गवर्नमेंट प्रेजेंट करती है उसको अपोजिशन आके निगेट कर देती है. एक थर्ड पार्टी या कोई डेवलपमेंट सेक्टर है, ADB के जो नंबर्स होंगे वो आपके बारे में बिल्कुल मुख्तलिफ होंगे. अगर वो कुछ पॉजिटिव दिखा देता है मूडीज़ की रिपोर्ट, तो गवर्नमेंट उसके बारे में उसको हैमर करती है. ईज़ ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस मिसाल के तौर पर हर दफ़ा हमें कहा जाता है कि वी हैव एक्चुअली बिकम एन ईजियर कंट्री टू वर्क इन. यू आर अ बिजनेस ओनर, हैव वी बिकम ईजियर? यहाँ तो बिजनेस एब्सोल्युटली यहाँ पे बिजनेस करना एक जिहाद करने के मुताबिक है कि हर रोज आपके सामने, आप वो नहीं कहते, हम बचपन में फेरी टेल पढ़ते थे कि आपने अगर कासल के अंदर जाना है तो पहले एक वो ब्रिज क्रॉस करना होगा, नीचे क्रोकोडाइल आएगा, फिर आगे एक सर्पेंट निकलेगा, वो आपसे रिडल पूछेगा. That's exactly what doing business in Pakistan is like.
It reminds me of that game, Prince of Persia.
I know.
We grew up, I think, with PCs pe the,
Yeah.
and trying to get that prince to go across the castle.
I swear.
That's like doing, and every day you're wondering, aaj darwaze pe kaun khatkhataega paise lene ke liye?
बिल्कुल.
You know, ye bhi, and you know, shuru mein to I'd be like, ye kaun sa idara hai? Ye bhi idara hai?
हाँ.
Inko kya, matlab, you know, and they would just show up.
And you will only find out and hear from them once you unknowingly have done something wrong.
Yeah, or not even wrong. Once they know you exist. You know, I wish someone told us that, okay, you want to build a business, here is a checklist.
Oh, ye sab
Here is
karna
the
hai.
organizations, who you have to pay, and this is all tax and SESI and EOBI, whatever everything is, right? And you're like, okay, you know what? I will plan this into my financial model. I will project it, and that's fine.
Yes.
Yahan to you have no idea who's going to show up when, where, and why. And how much they're going to ask for.
And some of it, I say, ki, acha, fine, it's evolving. Misal ka taur pe, you must have heard all the tech companies who were trying to give you a mass transportation solution. Right. Of course, they were fintech, and they're using, they're a third-party agency. They don't own the cars, they don't own the people. Lekin unko ek time aaya tha ki they were being clubbed as a transport company. So suddenly, new taxes, new policy framework was slapped on them. Wahan pe aap keh sakte ki chalo knee-jerk reaction hai. Even the government is trying to understand ki bhai aapka core business kya hai. For every business, even for bakeries, we don't have that momentum happening towards it. Savvy लगता है सुनने में, चले जी हम लोगों को job seekers नहीं बनाएंगे, job creators बनाएंगे. मगर कैसे बनाएंगे उस पे we have no understanding.
Shouldn't have the business channels continued? Because if you think about it, most of them, trying to remember correctly, were actually part of a slightly bigger group, right? No one was really a standalone business channel. I think maybe CNBC that came on as a standalone, but uske saath bhi ek aur Urdu news channel tha. Sabke saath unke paas media house ka ek hissa the, so they could share and cover costs. It was just about broadcasting content. Fine, I understand business ki audiences choti hai, kam hai. But eventually audiences to create hoti hain, right? Eventually you just have to be persistent at it, and the audience will come. Faizan, and they will get educated.
Faizan, do you know, I did a little bit of, one of my projects for marketing, and we were looking at the history of mass media in Pakistan. We got the television way before. It was a luxury. We got the television before Malaysia. We got the television before the Far Eastern countries. और उस वक्त हमारे manifesto में लिखा हुआ है PTV को जब launch किया कि because it was a big cost. मैंने कहा because this country is a big population country. हमारे पास education नहीं है. You rightly pointed out literacy नहीं है. So it was supposed to be a tool for infotainment. It was supposed to not just give them entertainment, but a lot of information, raise awareness. तभी आप देखें कि एक PTV था, but they had genres. हमें पता था कि ये कार्टून का टाइम है, ये इंग्लिश बुलेटिन का टाइम है, ये एंटरटेनमेंट है, रात को हमने current affairs. Now what we have done, and initially, if I remember correctly, every channel followed that. Even channels like presently I'm with Aaj Network. So one of the brilliant things we used to notice was that it was one channel, but it was a hybrid channel. So a couple of hours when they would switch to infotainment and start doing things which are lighter and not hardcore current affairs, their logo would turn red instead of green. So they had this clear demarcation, a little bit of branding, knowing exactly where you're going. Today, you may have over 36 channels. But if, for example, there's a press conference, you just get a different angle. And literally not even a different angle of conversation, a different angle of camera. और आप वही बात देख रहे होते हैं. हर channel एक ही चीज़ दिखा रहा है. And Jio, if you remember it had career online. They had Alim online. They had children's programming. So they tried to cater to audiences which are not profitable, but for your own sanctity. Okay, what is it that I stand for? I'm going to, do my contribution in raising awareness and raising. अब वो ऐसा कुछ है ही नहीं.
The money is not there. Let's be straight up. I mean, I ran a health-focused channel, and I understand it was all educational content and infotainment content. And at the end of the day, there was very loyal audiences, but the size of that audience was not as great. And the challenge was that audiences prefer sansanikhez headlines ke tomato aaj 6 rupees ka ho gaya hai. और पेट्रोल में आज 50 पैसे का इजाफा हो गया है, and that's your breaking news for the day, right? And so I think it's just as long as someone else is running in that direction, and actually it's not even Pakistan. If you go back in time, what created global 24-hour news? It's CNN.
Yes.
Right? And what created the CNN's 24-hour news, I was reading somewhere, it was actually the O.J. Simpson trial. the O.J. Simpson trial, and that too, before the trial was the car chase. The first time a televised car chase took place, and people are just following the white Bronco, and people are glued to their screens. And that gave birth to that 24-hour nashriyat of news. Do you really need to watch a car chase? And then you watch the whole trial, and uske baad se ab sare trials is tarah chal rahe hain.
And we've become worse, na?
And they become worse.
Abhi hum hourly news nahi follow kar rahe.
Right.
We want it minute to minute. Like,
But the problem is we're missing the big picture.
yes,
You know, no
absolutely.
one is, in fact, for me, and this is the biggest challenge, right? No television channel is summarizing, giving you a big picture view, which is what still print does. Editorials in print, articles in print will take that narrative, like let's say the narrative, and summarize it in an editorial or an article, say, here's sort of how this is playing out. The television medium is no longer doing that.
Yes.
And so will that medium become ineffective with time is my question.
I feel right now it still carries a lot of currency.
Right.
If you look at it, yes, it's the boom of the social media. A lot of people, and I've seen that. My dad used to pinpoint it to me. He's like, back in the day, आप जो न्यूज़पेपर पे नहीं लिख सकते थे, टीवी पे नहीं बोल सकते थे, when the private media came in, you were seen to be a bold, brave journalist because you
Right.
could call a spade, which you had censorship, and not even censorship per se, the institutions or the governments, but आप mentally खुद ही train हो चुके थे कि यार, and I could sense the difference. I would invite the same guest when I was doing a political show on PTV. If I was on a private channel, the same guest would speak in a different language. But on PTV, he'd have a completely different body language and choice of words. So you could sense that people would self-censor. And the moment a journalist or a guest would go to private media, they'd be more open.
Right.
And we just see another degree of that happen with social media.
Right.
Private media, pe, again, you're thinking that this is being consumed by masses, is unedited, kuch nahi ho sakta, viral bhi ho sakta hai. So you are still a little more contained. It's social media. People have left all filters,
How does that go against what your dad taught you and what he learned in his PTV training? Because a lot of that training happened in Germany, if I recall,
Yes.
for PTV, right?
Yes.
How does that go against the grain? How does he react? Someone with that experience react to what he's seeing on social?
He feels it's so crass. I remember Faizan, back in the day, my dad was very particular about the language we speak. So hum galti se, I think he overheard me speaking on the telephone as a teenager. I called my friend, yaar, ye nahi karo. And he's like, what is this yaar business? What is this yaar business? And years later, I think 5 or 6 years later, there was some advertisement playing, and they were again trying to show the millennials to be this young, happening kids. और उसकी lines में था, उसकी copy में था, और यारों के यार, and I'm like, that.
This is our lingo.
This is where we're going now.
Yeah.
He's like, सब बदतमीजी है, how crass, इसका क्या मतलब है? And now when you can see him going red in the face even today when he's reading the tickers or he's listening to the headlines. कि क्या तूफान है बदतमीजी है, in his words, to quote him. And yes, I feel it too, because I feel we're making it to be such a new normal that we've taken away the grace. Like going to an English medium school, Faizan, and being an English public speaker, I think my thought process, my argument formation is all in English. But my learning of Urdu was all on job, because acha suna, my dad is a master's in linguistics. He would correct my Urdu every time. I had some vocabulary, I had some reading background in Urdu, but a lot of it I picked up through PTV and listening to good seniors. Aaj mujhe lagta hai, what are we teaching to the younger lot when what is their vocabulary strength like? What is their word treasure like? We're not doing a great. In fact, while driving to this place, I was noticing this big soap put up a big billboard out there, and I realized उन्होंने लिखा कि नमी इससे मिलती है और ताजगी फलाने से मिलती है, वो 2 ingredients, and this was written in Roman English.
Right.
I'm like, you're targeting the masses. I understand you want to be this upscale, nice brand and, for the elite, but at the end of the day, you're masses, right? Why are you writing in Roman English? What's wrong with Urdu script? And if you notice, it's gone away in the very recent past. 5-6 साल से you're watching the advertising. कुछ उर्दू में नहीं लिखते. आपको इनफैक्ट जो टेक्स्ट आता है आपकी टेलीकॉम कंपनी की से, वो भी रोमन इंग्लिश.
What is your view on this whole Roman communication business? Because if you go to, let's say, GCC states जहाँ पे Arabic है, वो Arabic को English में नहीं लिख रहे होते. It is only a Pakistan or maybe even in India, a subcontinent phenomenon.
A Turkey phenomena as well.
Exactly. It's a Turkey phenomena too.
Yeah.
What is your view on this? Because you can't, so, I mean, we're in the digital business. It makes search engine optimization really hard. It's hard to find things. And spellings of words like meh is, I mean,
Mean.
what is the right, exactly, mean, you know? Like, so how do you see this playing out? I mean, is this the right path for marketeers to continue on, or should they stick to the languages?
But I love the fact how, again, going back to your question about the digital के optimization करनी है, उसमें मुझे बड़ा मजे का लगता है कि आप जब literal translations कर रहे होते हैं, जैसे उर्दू में हम कहते हैं ना, argument दिया, मुंह तोड़ जवाब दिया. I've seen so many of these clips going viral, mouth breaking response. I absolutely love it. I'm like, what's a mouth breaking, jaw breaking response? मुंह तोड़ जवाब. अच्छा, और उसके अलावा हमारी spellings have become atrocious. I remember again देख रही थी some political disloyalty was being pointed out. उन्होंने कहा कि जी जैसे उर्दू का मुहावरा है कि उन्होंने ये किया, ये उन्होंने उनकी पीठ में छुरा घोंपा है, और नीचे लिखा हुआ है उनके पेट पे छुरा घोंपा है. Because आप अंग्रेजी तो छोड़ें, आपको उर्दू लिखने नहीं आ रही है. पीठ और पेट में सिर्फ एक वो दो चश्मे वाली हे का फर्क है. And you're missing that. So a lot of times it's very heartbreaking कि चले अंग्रेजी के बारे में आप कहते हैं कि बहुत सारे लोगों को अच्छी अंग्रेजी नहीं आती, स्पेलिंग्स की मिस्टेक हो सकती है, और स्पेल चेक ने उसको और हमें ख़राब कर दिया है. बट अगर आपको उर्दू लिखनी नहीं आ रही है, तो that is a problem as a country.
And so if I move this towards the next thing, which is social media, because you literally started with the traditional stand on stage, elocution, present, went into TV, did that for a while as a presenter, you picked the business side. And now you have picked up social media as a platform, but you use it very selectively. You're not out there like some of the other, let's say, people in a similar career are out there. How are you adapting to social?
So social for me, as you very rightly pointed out, I do indulge. I would like to believe that I've embraced it well. But for me, it is with a lot of caution. It's the similar kind of caution I exercise when I'm picking up any forum. Like, I'm up for a business policy dialogue with a corporate, but if they're doing something which also includes entertainment, like you have a day-long performance awards and it ends up with some kind of entertainment, I stay away from that.
But I don't see that caution in you on TV.
Do you not?
You're much more cautious on social. Your social presence is not your TV presence. I mean, of course, there's your TV personality is very different from other hosts. Agreed. But your TV personality versus your social personality are two different personalities. Why is that?
I have a story because of it. I was in PTV, and once I entered and my producer said that something's arrived for you. I'm like, yeah. And this is back in 2012 or 2013. And Facebook was new and Facebook was only opening up, but I had a very active page there. मैं तस्वीरें भी डाल देती थी जो खुद रोज भी कर रही हूँ, वो भी डाल देती थी, personal life की भी pictures डाल देती थी. And Faizan, what I had received was this some fan in a small town in Sindh, बहुत दूर, और उसने मुझे 12 mugs भेजे थे, और हर mug के ऊपर मेरी ही तस्वीर और मेरी family की तस्वीर printed थी. It scared the daylights out of me. मैंने कहा अच्छा, मेरी बचपन की तस्वीर, मेरे अम्मी अब्बू की तस्वीर, मेरे नेफ्यू की तस्वीर जो बेचारा उस वक्त 1 साल का था, मैं कहा आई कांट सब्जेक्ट माई फैमिली टू दिस. सो सोशल मीडिया, वेरी कॉशियस. इट्स ऑल वर्क रिलेटेड. इट्स थिंग्स दैट people know anyways, and I would like to draw more attention to. But I have one rule, and I have this rule for the last 12 years at least. No personal information, as little as possible. People don't need to know what steak I'm enjoying, what temperature I like of it.
But then how do they build that trust and loyalty in you as a person? Because social is all about being you and putting you, the you that you are, or the you that you want to present to the world, whatever that you is. Putting that you out there. And that's what I meant by you're very cautious on social. You do not share an entire segment of your life that is not your work profile. Why not? I mean, don't you think that you will achieve a new level of trust with your audiences? Because that is what social is about.
You are right. And you're absolutely right that I'm very, very cautious. I'm only giving away 10%. It's an iceberg approach. कि जितना दिख रहा है उतना ठीक है. It may even look very carefully curated. I'm right कि वो authenticity question होने लगेगी. But I would like to believe that what I put out there is 100% authentic me.
But one part of it.
One part of it.
But what if I want to see the other parts of you? And I'm, let's say, a fan like that fan who sent you mugs. And that fan was like, no, but what does she do in her free time? What does she do for, let's say, activities? Or does she play sports? Does she like to go eat at a restaurant? Because all social is about that. It's about presenting you. And, people learn from different parts of you. Oh, you know what, that person, a guest I'm having is a marathon runner who's a businessman.
But isn't it sad? I am a big subscriber to the thought that, small minds discuss people, average mind, discuss events, and great minds discuss ideas. I would like them to be pushed to the fact that, yes, here's somebody they get enough of my face, they get enough of my ideas and a certain, brand of me. Misal ke taur pe, they get a lot of me on TV, 5 days a week, 2 hours every day. They get social media, which gives them a glimpse of what is happening, of what my life is like off screen. But beyond that, there would be no air of mystery.
No, but the thing is that wouldn't you be able to inspire more people? So let's say all of the things you're doing and you're constantly traveling, and you and I were speaking, and I remember the line you said, is I've done enough trips of Karachi or Islamabad to have traveled the globe like 6 times, So you're always on the road, you're attending these seminars, you're running thought leadership dialogues. People, there must be people like your 15-year-old self who's out and doing debates and allocutions, looking up to you and saying, you know what, one day I want to be like Sidra. But they have no visibility in what the rest of your life looks like that supports this profile, right?
Let's say I'm saving content for my book. The book will have, okay, Sidra, what's your process?
No one reads anymore. It has to be a video book. It has to be a blog.
I stand corrected. I'll give a little more of myself. But honestly speaking, there is the process that I have. I've had, the most curiosity around that. People are like, "Ab kab padhti hain?" Aisa lagta hai, bahut padhti hain.
Right.
So yeah, I do my little bit of reading. I have had a lot of training around that. Speed reading kaise karni hai? How do you pick on the crux of an idea?
It's called AI.
And don't get me started on AI. When people want to talk about artificial intelligence, let them first find a solution for natural stupidity.
Yeah.
वो बड़ा मसला है हमारा. Artificial intelligence हम कर लेंगे.
Right.
लेकिन जो natural stupidity है ना,
Right.
उसको एड्रेस करना पहले ज्यादा जरूरी है.
True. So you will continue being cautious about your social presence.
I'll give you an example. My trainer would always tell me, Sidra, you're so punctual with working out. I think this would be great inspiration for people. But I'll only do like a picture saying going into the gym.
Yeah.
And then I'm saying, oh, very hard was this session today. I don't want a video of me working out on the internet. I am very cautious of that.
And if you follow The Rock, I don't know if you follow The Rock, he's got like 300 plus million followers. His videos are him working out.
Yeah.
And in fact, he actually details his life, so obviously there's the success he's had as a wrestler and flana, and obviously, but he's showing you what he obviously what he wants to show you, but he's showing you parts of his life that have created that output. He's showing the inputs.
Yeah, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि I'm also scared of that. That high level of scrutiny. I mean, drawing from Rock's example only. I think he did this beautiful thing with his daughter when he was asking her to wash her hands. Remember that video?
Yeah.
And people were like, at his case, but dekho pani kitna beh raha hai. Nalka band nahi kiya tumne. So I can't deal with that.
But think of the number of people who were inspired. देखो हमें बच्चों के हाथ धुलाने चाहिए, Or maybe there was one of him and his daughters had drawn on his face and were having fun with him. It was these small little things that, I mean, even I was inspired by that. I said, you know what? I would like to be that kind of dad with my kid. Fine, I'm not The Rock, obviously. But, something like that. And so you'd be surprised where people take inspiration from social, right? And so then why not give that?
अच्छा, और मैं दूसरी चीज़ ये भी, मैं lazy भी बहुत हूँ. मैं 3 तस्वीरें.
So that is actually the real reason.
The real reason वो भी है. वीडियो बनाई, तस्वीरें डाली, कभी there is, as you can imagine, there's a lot of work that goes into it. शो भी किया है, उस दिन का इवेंट भी किया है, फिर बीच में हमारी तो you're lucky because you're a man, so हमें तो बीच में वो भी ना कि अच्छा dash to the salon, dash to the designer, have enough clothes, and people उस सब के करने के बाद वो actual event की तस्वीर होती है, behind the scene होता है. I have a lot of respect for my friends like Anushe, who's like constantly अच्छा मैं यहाँ जा रही हूँ, बता भी देती हूँ. मेरे में नहीं होती भाई हिम्मत, मुझे तो गुस्सा आ रहा होता है उस वक्त. I'm hating the Karachi weather, I'm
Yeah.
hating being stuck in traffic. That's not the Sidra you want to see on
Yeah.
social media or I'd like to document. Na dekho wo wala part mera.
So if let's say now someone like you is at that age that you were at when you got that push or the inspiration, but they don't have, let's say, a parent in media or a family that supports this kind of, let's say, journey for them.
Yes.
Where do they begin? How do they begin? And especially where digital is the dominant medium today. Like, what would you recommend for the next 5 years for someone looking to get into this career of hosting, content creation, being a content creator on thoughtful subjects?
Okay. I would have 3 pieces of advice for them. Number 1, do it for the right reason and let that be an extension of yourself. हमारे यहाँ कई दफ़ा लोग ये समझते हैं कि यार फलाने शख्स को मैंने सुना और वो बड़ी नॉर्मल सी बातें कर रहा था, इसमें क्या रॉकेट साइंस है? I can do it and I can do it better. Don't. Try to figure out what is it that you would like to tell to people, and audience के point of view से सोचें कि what is the value you're adding. Are you making their life better? Are you giving them information? Are you entertaining them? Is it not tone deaf? Imagine कि आपकी reach पूरी दुनिया है, तो आप किसी को offend तो नहीं कर रहे. Are you doing it for the right reasons?
Right.
Then secondly, I would tell people not to be a perfectionist. हमारे यहाँ मुझे एक मेरी बिजनेस कोच ने एक दफ़ा कहा था कि परफेक्शनिस्ट नेवर गेट एनीथिंग डन. व्हाई? बिकॉज यू कॉन्स्टेंटली थिंकिंग कि अच्छा मुझे ये वाले रिसोर्सेज चाहिए, लाइटिंग परफेक्ट हो, फलाना हो. स्टेप ऑन इट. यू कैन इवॉल्व अराउंड द वे. एंड माई थर्ड पीस ऑफ एडवाइस वुड बी बेंचमार्क. It is जैसे अभी आपने कहा कि for me when I was growing up, I had people I was looking up to. I would pick things from them. I would learn things from them. Small things, pronunciations. You know, if I was reading something, I had picked up a word, but I did not know how to pronounce, and we are the analog, you know, childhood people. तो वो dictionary में लिखा होता था कि इसको pronounce कैसे करते हैं, phonetics. But it was hard. And sometimes it was embarrassing to ask. We were blessed to have good teachers who would guide you. But जो मैं बात बता रही थी कि when I would go to the ESU town hall meetings, those were the things I would pick up. And sometimes I would like a particular phrase or, you know, a thought so much that I'd come back and in front of the mirror, I'd practice it.
And and for that, you have Google Translate now.
Now you have Google Translator, you have Google Pronunciation. Like people have made a killing on YouTube, giving you just words which are Italian words and German words, telling you how to pronounce them, names that needed to be pronounced. मैंने तो वो सारा cycle गुजारा ना कि I made a goof of myself कि एक international speaker उसका गलत नाम भी लिया, फिर जाके तमीज़ आई कि यार उससे पहले पूछ लेते हैं. It's a proper noun and people like to be, you know, pronounced right. फिर उसके बाद अब थोड़ी और आ गई कि अच्छा यार if it's a popular name, there must be the pronunciation must be online. जाके देख लो, Turkish नाम है तो कोई मसला नहीं है.
True.
So, I mean, you pick up these things. Have people you're looking up to. Have a very clear understanding how I want to position log kaise hai, and then create a personal version of that. So that's my 3 bits for them.
Amazing. Sidra, this was amazing. Thank you so much for taking out the time.
Thank you.
And I think this is great advice because there's so many people getting into the content creation space without getting into the thought leadership space. And a lot of them, like you just mentioned, I would say it as figure out your why. Like, why are you doing this and what makes you different? You know, and I think people skip that.
My dad's generation, I remember, because Baba the visual is कि studio floor used to be नीचे and the MCR, the PCR जो head office वो थोड़ा ऊपर वाले level पे होता है. वो कहते थे, वहीं से डांट के कहते थे, don't waste airspace.
Right.
ये बात 1 मिनट में कही जा सकती है, इसको 6 मिनट में मत बोलो, स्पेशली लाइव टेलीविजन. और डांट पड़ती थी बकायदा. सो आई थिंक यू डू द सेम. यस, देयर इज लिमिटलेस अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर यू टू क्रिएट कंटेंट, but don't waste that space.
Amazing.
Say something meaningful.
Amazing. And I think that's a great thought to keep in mind, especially on digital. Don't waste space. So stay tuned. Don't waste space. Create content. Thank you, Sidra.
Pleasure.
And stay tuned for more DigiTales next week. Subscribe to the channel if you like it. Comment below if you like this episode. And I will see you next week. Bye-bye.